chin and he steals the Baron. How did that connect by anyway? Fini.
Welcome back, everybody, to the EU Masters, and we are heading towards game number 5. We've had Silver Scrapes playing in our ears as we go the full distance in this series. I'm Munchables. I'm joined by Jamada, as I'm kind of speechless. They're paying me to talk, and I'm speechless about the fact that we've gone to 5 games because Fnatic Rising started 2-0, Jamada, and now the LFL has come back to prove why they could be the top dog.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we see LFL maybe at 4 LFL finals. If Misfits win this, it would be a statement for sure for the entire region. We know the strength, but that would truly kind of put things into perspective for a lot of the aerials. But for Fnatic, backs against the wall. They've been in this exact position already quite recently in the NLC finals. Let's see if they can pull out a different result, you know, because quite frankly, these last 2 games, I think the key thing, and touched on by the desk, Tad, I think you've got to, if you're going to allow Woolite to have agency, you have to try and let Bean have agency at the same time. You can't just draft these sort of utility sleeper-ish in the early game AD carries into what Woolite's running, because we just saw what happened, right? And with the Jinx, complete freedom to do whatever he wanted because there was no backline access.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, let's be honest. Well, I had a free game. Yeah. He was just autoing the tower all through the early game, just autoing champions all the way through the late game. Like, he had no pressure on it whatsoever.
And the crazy thing about it is Fnatic opted into that lane. They had full information on what they were actually drafting into, and they still opted into that lane, which is definitely worrying for me. So, Fnatic, they're still on blue side. I wouldn't mind seeing the same opener that we saw in game 4, but I think you have to change up the bottom lane matchup. That is the only difference that I would honestly like to see, because apart from that, I didn't mind the rest of the draft. I didn't mind this Twisted Fate priority. I didn't even mind the Nidalee still showing up after all of these games. But I think we have to change the bottom lane. I don't necessarily think you have to remove away anything crazy from the bottom side. You know, come the second ban phase, you can allow something like Jinx Thresh to go through. But if you do, you have to match it with some kind of aggression. You have to match it with some similar level of scaling. Otherwise, you're just allowing Woolite and Misfits to play the game they love.
Last opportunity as well for D-Lord and Hiva to influence this game that is going to decide everything for both Fnatic and for Misfits. It's going to be Zinzao and Aphelios, by the way. By the way, Fnatic, they got side selection. They've opted into the blue side once again and wanting to change the strategy a little bit is the Aurelia and that Varus that we keep on talking about being banned away.
Yeah, and okay, so Fnatic Rising feel like Olaf is the biggest thorn in their side, perhaps. So we'll see what it will leave up. Lee Sin has been banned every single game so far. Maybe that is the curveball that Misfits actually throw.
Diego, Twisted Fate as well.
Yeah,
these picks still really strong. The Ryze has been strong in the series. It feels like there are so many power picks.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you leave... Okay, no, they're going to ban away the Lee Sin. So, Twisted Fate, good opener, in my opinion, for Fnatic Rising. I think it does its job. It allows Leon to play the game and the map how he wants to. But this time, they're going to remove away the Thresh. So, this should, in theory, not allow Misfits and specifically Woolite to lock in something like Jinx again and get all of that freedom. That also says to me that, you know, maybe Bean is going to pick up a hyper carry along those lines. They're hovering the Jinx, I think, maybe to play fun. Maybe they still lock it in at the end of the day. You never know.
I think they go for this and go for like a Braum, right? I think this perfectly feasible to just take the Jinx away from Fnatic, right? Because you cannot... You just saw what Jinx Thresh can do when you lock that in. Like, you don't want to give that to your opponent.
No, absolutely not. So, let's see how Misfits want to round out, because AD carry first rotation on the red side hasn't necessarily been the thing before game 4. So are they going to put priority on the mid lane? Are they going to put priority on Shlatan? Well, they're just locking their support because they can see it. You called out the Braum. It's exactly what they're going to do. So defensive bottom side in that sense, where diving that Jinx and Braum, where you've got the chompers, you've got the concussive blows stacking up, it's very, very dangerous. Fnatic Rising, though, they're going to lock in the Jarvan, so they are going outright. They are going to play towards the bottom side here with this combination of champions. You've got the lockup of the Thresh, you've got the chain TC as well from the Jarvan, and of course all the damage. Ashe eventually will hit level 6 and gain access to the Crystalline Arrow. So to me, this immediately screams Fnatic Rising probably want to play towards the bottom side. This is Misfits' opportunity. If they want to lock in something like Twisted Fate to maybe answer some of those picks, it would mean that Shlatan champion would get locked down a little bit. So I expect them still to go for it. Instead, LeBlanc hover, LeBlanc lock in, and I don't mind this either, because now, as Misfits, you get to ban away the Twisted Fate, and you also get to ban away maybe something else as well that can pair up well with that Jarvan.
Also hot.
I mean, you know, maybe Sylas Twisted Fate, maybe Ryze Twisted Fate will probably be the bans I'd expect from Misfits in this kind of position where, you know, just remove away stuff that can answer LeBlanc and also influence the bottom side of the map. There's one of the two, and I think for Fnatic Rising, Shlatan's champion pool, Viego could probably be the top shot as well.
Yeah, I was not expecting to see a Graves ban today. That was maybe the last jungler I expected to see. Hey, let's see Shlatan bring out the Nidalee. Let's see him throw that in MAXI's face and bring out MAXI's signature in Game 5 of the semifinals. That'd be something special.
It would be. It would be pretty funny if Misfits, you know, they lose the first 2 games in the fashion they do, to then kind of, you know, throw it all back in Fnatic's face, and then on top of that, to then additionally do it with MAXI's own signature pick, Shlatan. That would be quite the ego play, and I would love to see it maybe, but for now, we've got the Sylas removed away. Still leaves Ryze up and available as an option for Dajor, crucially. So more worried about, I guess, him being able to lock in that one. It was highlighted on the desk. I think Trouble said she wanted to see Sylas come out from Dajor, but Misfits, they're going to deny that opportunity. Now, I'm still thinking about the Viego. They're going to leave it open. They're not too fussed about this jungle matchup, it seems. They feel like Jarvan has a good time into it, so they remove away Agresivoo's Gnar instead. And I think Fnatic Rising, you know, maybe Misfits actually pinch away the Kennen. Because I think right now Fnatic Rising have a lot of backline access via the Jarvan. If you stack a Kennen on top of that, that'll be really dangerous. And I think you don't necessarily care about the jungle matchup if you're willing to let it go far, this far.
Also,
so
like at the end of the day, jungle matchup, they've still got Viego.
Yeah, they know they've still got
arguably one of the
confirmed.
strongest junglers on the patch available.
So I like this.
Why not?
I like this call from Misfits, honestly, because now all of a sudden the dive threat, the backline threat, is effectively half, because you yourselves as Fnatic Rising have removed away the Camille. We'll see now what Pride actually wants to go for. We've got here the Ryze, so that again, Dajor's comfort is going to be into Sertuss' LeBlanc, and we'll see how he can pilot the matchup once again, and whether or not this time he's allowed to actually move to a side lane. Go on, hit me with it.
Random prediction. I'm just saying Jarvan top does really well against Kennen. They could do the old switcheroo.
No, they're not
it's not going to happen. But I just wanted to throw it out before the pick came in case I was a prop.
But now, we've already seen Pride pilot this matchup already. He did absolutely fine in it. Of course, this could change if Misfits shift up the priority, but the chances are Woolite is in this game on Jinx. I think we know what we're likely to see. This would be such a smart adaptation, which I would love to see. I'm just gonna wait for the time. I don't even want to talk.
Why is that?
As soon as it gets locked in, I will progress my point. Okay, all of this dive from Fnatic can immediately be negated as soon as Kindred presses Araki. There's nothing you can really do about it. You can't necessarily CC her out. The only CC here that can do it is obviously the knock up and the stun from Ashe, I guess the hook too. But at the end of the day, you're gonna have a Braum standing on top of that. And if you go for an entire fight on that Lamb's respite and everyone's left low and Jinx can be kept in a position where she can maybe flash away from the rest of the team, all of a sudden you've got 2, 3, maybe 4 targets in, you know, 2, 3 rocket range, and the resets just come in. It just denies Fnatic Rising what they want to do. So such a smart pick. And not only that, 1-to-1, it can take over the jungle matchup because Jarvan cannot put out that much damage in the early stages. Kindred can shred him rather. So Jarvan got to be very careful, MAXI, in these early stages. Otherwise, he can find himself falling behind in the matchup too.
Okay, so late game, team fighting, all about Misfits. What about the side of Fnatic? What did they have in the bag? What are they got to do to stop that happening?
I mean, the thing is, I think Misfits, rather Fnatic Rising's win conditions actually light in the team fighting too. You've got Jarvan, you've got Gangplank, you've got the Ryze. You want to scrap yourselves. This is not a draft that you take knowing that, you know, you want to just sit back, scale, play side lanes. Whilst you can play side lanes with a Gangplank and a Ryze, quite frankly, if you've got this composition which is gonna try and run into you in most cases, I think Fnatic are gonna be very happy to take these team fights once the item spike starts coming, once Pride hits level 13, all of these important item breakpoints and champion breakpoints.
Let's see if Fnatic can find the team fights. But right now, I'm liking the look of this Kindred pick from Shlatan. Jamada, we are into game number 5. It's the NLC up against the LFL. It's a matchup we've seen plenty of times before, and the LFL historically does pretty well in it. It's going to be Misfits now with 2 wins on the trot, looking for a reverse sweep in the semi-finals as the favorites coming on in, and Fnatic Rising. I mean, Pride is on your screen, and that's exactly what Fnatic Rising are looking to hold on to after those first 2 games. and now a bit of a disaster since.
Yeah, it's been a bit of an up then down series for Fnatic. Obviously, they win the first 2 games. All of a sudden, you know, it feels like the world kind of stops. Fnatic Rising taking down Misfits in potentially 3 games. It almost sounds stupid coming out of my mouth, but it's what almost happened. But Misfits, with all of the experience and all of the patience, I feel, to play out this series in a nature where all of a sudden they can start to deny Fnatic Rising their win conditions. They can start to recognize, okay, maybe we have to put more agency on Woolite. We can't just immediately put him on these scaling picks where then Bean has the Varus and he gets to dominate the laning phase. So the adaptation here has been absolutely phenomenal from Misfits to put them in the position where, you know, we said it coming or going into the break before we headed to the analyst desk. It feels like Fnatic are against the wall just because of how these previous 2 games have gone. So they've got to pull something special out here. Maybe MAXI on the Jarvan can do it. A little more proactivity in some of these lanes to, you know, try and slingshot Bean ahead or try and slingshot Pride ahead like last game.
That'll be the key thing. And one thing I want to highlight as well is that the adaptation, the draft changing throughout a series, this kind of stuff is what Fnatic were being praised for all through this tournament, right? We keep on talking about how Fnatic have changed as a team coming into EU Masters, and they have evolved across the course of this tournament. Here today, in game number 5, it's Misfits that have managed to evolve themselves in this final game, bring out this kooky counter pick in the jungle, and now Shlatan wants a bit of early action. He won't be able to go for an invade here, but he might be able to just go for a gank in the mid lane instead. Dajor in trouble. Ignite, electrocute going to be procced onto him, but Shlatan just going to be pathing on through.
Yeah, just going to be pathing on through. Was looking for that gank opportunity. Chains don't connect though. I feel if they commit, if the chains do land, MAXI was right in the area. Could have potentially been disastrous for Misfits Premier, but no play occurs, and now we're just going to continue this upwards clear towards the top side of the map. Shlatan will clear out his red buff and then likely look for either a gank towards the top side or maybe contest that skull. But with the lane priorities the way they are for Fnatic Rising, I think he probably gets shoved out, so you may just see him return to farming. Maybe MAXI also goes for the double skull. This wave is stacked up quite heavily to the point where Fnatic might look for a dive off the back of it. Even with a Gangplank, if you can find that first bit of CC, quite dangerous spot.
This is going to be a smite off. This is going to be a smite off, but Dale moves in. Shlatan going to be rooted up. Sertuss over the wall. Dale has no mana left. That's huge damage out from Shlatan. MAXI looks for the 2v1. Forces out a flash, but will have to flash himself as well. Pride arriving, but it's too late to the party.
All right. Quite aggressive from MAXI, but I mean, flash a flash. Kindred definitely misses her flash a little bit more in the early stages just because it gives her so much extra freedom to play aggressively, whereas the Jarvan, once you're in anyway, of course it gives you the added flexibility of the range of the engage, but Kindred feels a lot safer with that option. And oh, that was the mark actually, so that's off to the races already. But Braum side,
oh, Rhuckz in big trouble, has to flash away from the Mountain Dread alone. Bean taking some serious punishment in this bot lane matchup as well, and it feels like so far so good for the side of Misfits Premier. MAXI kind of being read on what he wanted to do, and Shlatan, if he can just have a chill, neutral early game and get a couple of stacks for himself, he's going to be happy with that.
Yeah, of course, the stacks something we're going to have to keep track of as this game progresses, because of course Kindred can scale into quite the monster if she can pick up those marks and get them rolling early, right? And getting that first Skull Crab, definitely a step in the right direction to sort of be that secondary carry alongside that Jinx. And again, Fnatic Rising likely want to play this with MAXI sort of diving in, the Cannon Barrage on top of it. As soon as Woolite loses his flash, that's an immediate sort of repeat go button type play that you want to make. But if you've got the Lamb's Respite there to constantly set up the potential resets off the back of the, what would you call it, the invulnerability, I suppose, all of a sudden, Woolite gets much scarier if you can just auto somebody 2 times and the reset is there because you had all that time to actually lower them down in that Lamb's Respite.
Yeah, that's the thing that terrifies me about this composition, right? Is how do you ever kill Woolite? Feels like to me, Fnatic, they've kind of got to put Woolite behind somehow before that ever comes to pass. But Bean and Rhuckz moving towards that bottom lane once more. Rhuckz love to make a play towards this mid lane, maybe get Dajor ahead, but I don't think it's happening for the time being. And Jamada, I want to go back to a conversation that we had at the end of game number 2, or game number 3 had begun, and that was that, you know, Misfits, they were backs against the ropes, but they've got veterans. Can the mentality last it out? Well, the answer was yes. The veterans have come up trumps. They've managed to hold on and push us all the way to 5 games, and now that conversation is flipped around onto Fnatic, because this is a team with rookies. This is a team that doesn't have that same level of veterans. I mean, there are barely any teams with the same level of veterancy as this Misfits roster, right? Can the mentality of Fnatic hold up? Because this is one of the highest pressure games that most of these players have ever played.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. Fnatic have been in this position already. This iteration of Fnatic has already been in a best of 5 where they won the first 2 games and then got reverse swept. Do they have the inner strength, the inner mental strength, really, to find that level of calm in themselves against the team as, you know, storied as Fnatic, as Misfits, and actually turn it back in game 5 like they could have in the NLC finals? It's going to be tough to say right now. Misfits though definitely got the advantage.
This is essentially a Herald fight, but it's over a Scuttle Crab that has a mark in it. Shlatan goes straight on towards Pride. MAXI forced to wait as well. Pride level 6, but the Cannon Barrage, bit of a whiff really.
Yep.
As Dajor moves away, Rhuckz is here. 4 men strong for Misfits, and I love that they are playing for their Kindred, setting up these marks early on into the game. Dajor off on this flank. Agresivoo moving towards the Ryze, trying to get an ult off. Pride's in trouble. Exhaust is going to go down. Concussive blows will not tick, but an auto will. And it's Sertuss, LeBlanc ahead again. Shlatan will find himself the mark, and Misfits start off strong.
It sucks as Fnatic Rising, but I think as soon as that Cannon Barrage whiffs, you have to drop the play. Misfits, it just gives them too much freedom to maneuver around, not actually have this massive slow field to deal with. Fnatic Rising, though, they want to immediately respond. They don't get Rhuckz through the portal. And MAXI ends up on the wrong side of the wall. Oh my goodness.
It's about as badly as it could have gone for Fnatic. I love the attempt. I love the idea, right? Try and make a proactive play to answer, but it all goes pear-shaped. That means Misfits get this play for free.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as the Cannon Barrage is expended, I think you just have to give it up. You understand the intent, the reasoning. You don't want to give Shlatan these early marks, but quite frankly, you don't really have anything to fight with at this point. Ryze is nowhere near online. Pride isn't even level 7 at that fight. He's still level 6, so he doesn't have the faster tick barrels. He's effectively kind of a walking health bar without that Cannon Barrage, so bit of a strange decision in that kind of context. Misfits went out big, they get the first blood, and it goes on to Sertuss as well. It's not who you want to see it go on to if you're rooting for Fnatic Rising.
Exactly, right? And at the end of the day, when it comes to those kinds of decisions, it's exactly what we were saying before, right? These are the high-pressure moments where that veterancy, that strength of mentality is going to matter the most. Fantastic stuff coming out from Misfits in this early game. They're only 200 gold ahead. So I want to take a second here, Jamada, and kind of clarify again why this is so crucial for Misfits, because getting a couple of stacks on Kindred, for players that don't play Kindred, maybe they haven't seen Kindred for a long time, it may not seem like that big of a deal, but Kindred has some pretty significant spikes.
Yeah, she does. We have to hold that point.
Hang on. Yeah, forget Kindred a second. Agresivoo slides a Maelstrom to try and keep himself alive. MAXI will go for the Cataclysm, but flashed away. And again, Fnatic pull the trigger, and Misfits answer in kind. Jactroll moving in alongside Shlatan. They double flash for Pride here. Lamswest spike immediately. There's an arrow coming on through as well. That's an early ulti from the Kindred. And it means Shlatan will go down, and suddenly Fnatic turning the play around. Jactroll falls as well as a kill. Goes the way of Bean. Woolite's too late to the party.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. Has to have been a misclick. That's the only thing I can think of. There's no reason to cast Landry Spy at full HP. Shlatan kind of throws the opportunity. Misfits had to turn that play on its head entirely, and instead Fnatic Rising get the 2 free kills, and they also get the Herald off the back of it. This is a massive yield play for Fnatic Rising, considering they also get Agresivoo's flash, and they make him pull the TP to try and return back to the fight as well. These Misfits, they're going to have to be a little more careful in terms of, you know, picking these fights. If Agresivoo can't teleport down to the opposite side of the map, it starts off with this death sentence. And it's good patience from Agresivoo. Doesn't pull the flash here, doesn't pull the flash as soon as he sees the Cataclysm, flashes away. If that damage connects, dies through the parlay as well. I'm just uncertain. It just has to be a misclick. I don't know why else you would hit off in this situation.
Maybe. Perhaps just worried about the CC chain from Thresh or something? I'm not entirely sure, but regardless, it's a great play coming out from Fnatic in the end. Misfits, they lost the Herald on the top side. Fnatic were able to pick that one up. You can see it in MAXI's inventory. They answer with this first Drake. And we'll have to keep our eyes on towards those Kindred stacks as well, because obviously we saw a couple picked up earlier on in the game, and now with the Drake as well. It's feeling good for Shlatan, even though there's a bit of a misplay on the top side. He's still in a really great spot.
Yep, still in a very good spot. He's still 2 camps up, still got those 2 marks. And eventually those marks will start to spawn on some of MAXI's jungle camps. We'll see how well Misfits play around those mark spawns to try and advance their Kindred further ahead. For now,
oh, the mark just appeared as well. But Fnatic are here.
Oh, the shield regen. Okay, interesting. Smite.
Sertuss just recalled. Sertuss literally was in base. I feel like Fnatic needed to pull the trigger on that.
That was a lot of respect from Fnatic. That was definitely a lot of respect, but I think you can understand, right? You've just gained a pretty sizable advantage, all things considered. You don't want to throw it away over this couple grab. Yes, it doesn't mean you give Shlatan the opportunity to pick up this mark and get the advanced scaling, but I think it's a risk you're not necessarily going to have to take right now. I think once, of course, Shlatan hits that 4th mark, that's when things start to, potentially snowball a little bit more out of control in terms of the marks. But right now, I think Fnatic can sit quite happy with where they're at in this game state. Woolite isn't necessarily, accelerated in gold. In fact, he's quite significantly behind 1-1 with Bean. Pride is doing fine in his matchup, though Cast the Curse might...
Is he though? Because he's in a lot of trouble right now. Slicing Maelstrom immediately. It's going to be an orange, but it will not be okay. Shlatan finishes the kill. That's going to be another stack for him, I believe, because he had that mark up on that top side. Now the dive on the bottom side from Fnatic, but a beautiful ulti from Jactroll. Denies everything. Stopwatch now comes on through as well. Dajor arrives, but no kills taken by Fnatic. And Misfits, everything Fnatic throws at them, they have the answer. Now a Herald coming in, denying the wave so that the re-dive can't happen just yet, but now they'll move forwards. Jactroll trying to tank, but he goes down immediately. Tower low on HP, but still alive. So now Sertuss flashes away. Woolite still going strong. Flashes out from the Cataclysm, cleanses, and walks away. Sertuss falls. Bean following 1v2, gets the kill, but he goes down for his trouble. It's utter chaos in the bottom side, but Fnatic come out on top.
Yeah, Fnatic still definitely up trade on this for sure. They pick up more kills, they get the plate. It's unfortunate not to maybe be able to take the full tower, but quite frankly, you take this in a scenario as it's played out. And I mean, again, we spoke about how the teleport had to be blown by Agresivoo about 3 minutes ago. Massive for the fact that this dive occurs without Kennen showing up on a teleport. So we get the replay. They try to go for the initial dive. It goes a little bit pear-shaped. Dajor shows up on the Realm Warp, and once this Herald comes down, it means Fnatic can commit further forward because that's what's tanking up the tower. Jactroll, it doesn't have enough HP to survive the Ignite, and minions end up taking down Sertuss. And Woolite, he does eventually die. Bean, I think this is just too far. Because quite frankly, you can just sit there, hit the tower, take the tier 1. This is where the overstep comes. And this is actually where we saw some of Fnatic's domestically, games where they have a lead or they have an advantage, they throw it. It's because individual members at one time or another just step that far too forward, that foot too far forward, and they give up more than they should have. And it means they can't take as much as they could have either.
He wasn't expecting Shlatan to show up, I guess. But you know what? I respect it, Bean. I love it. Goes for the 1v1. He's like, come on, Woolite. This is who I am. Steps up and gets that kill for himself. Nicely done. Does go down for his trouble. And now Shlatan trying to get these crooks for himself. But he's found Pride, who is doing a decent job to trade back pretty effectively here. This will be the crooks taken out. On the opposite side of the map, though, look at MAXI taking away a red buff while Woolite looks for this tower. It's going to be kind of macro trading across the board here. Agresivoo trying to contest onto this red buff. It's MAXI. Oh, Sertuss now trading with Dajor as well. It's going to be pretty even trading. Actually, maybe Sertuss losing. Dajor doing a really good job to answer, but Shlatan arrives and it forces him away.
Yeah, I mean, there was an overload that missed there from Dajor. If he hits... If he misses that, maybe Sertuss dies. It's pretty close stuff from the 2 mid laners, but
Jamada, what is happening in this game?
I don't know. It's like,
remember what happened last game?
Not just last game, the game before.
20 minutes of nothing.
It's the game before as well, where it was like kind of quiet, but Misfits slowly edged ahead. Game 4, where it's just like completely silent until 20 minutes, basically, and now we have all of this chaos. Yes, it might not be, the kill per minute fantasy, but there's been so many, kind of butts of heads where it's just scuffling over skulls with a mark on them, or just scuffling over big waves.
Yeah, exactly.
The action has been hit.
And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I just saw the animation for Shlatan of his 4th stack. I don't know if we could check with the observers there to see if Shlatan has those stacks. But MAXI, in the meantime, in a bit of trouble mid lane. Yeah, 4 stacks for Shlatan. So big power spike on this Kindred, and he's almost level 11 as well.
almost level 11. He is farming up a Storm. Maybe not per se, but he's so far ahead.
Oh no, MAXI trying to go for the steal. Has a lantern to get out, so not going to be the end of the world there, but good effort from him. 2 Drakes now in favor of Misfits.
2 dragons. That means, of course, kind of like last game for Fnatic Rising, they're going to have to worry about that soul, potential condition coming out from Misfits. This time, definitely not as effective, but it's still, you don't want to have to deal with the added regeneration of the soul, or maybe the further pressure as Dajor could get caught out here.
Could get caught out. He's already caught out at this point, but Phase Rush is a rune, and so it means he survives. So now, Lamb's Respite is going to keep him safe as well. Oh, the Rogue Warp inside the Lamb's Respite, but the stun from Agresivoo. He survives! A million ultis blasted across the map, a million ultis on the play, but Dajor survives the 2v1.
What can I say? Dajor, despite the last couple of games not being necessarily Fnatic favored, he hasn't really had the time to shine in these 2 previous games. Still willing to pull out plays like this, where he just says, all right, I'm in the Lamb's Respite, I'm just going to cast my R. You have to cast more abilities. Shlatan has to retreat, and Agresivoo doesn't have the damage because the Lamb's Respite heal is so large, 250. Actually, more than that because he's level 11 already, which means he's able to walk out of it. And now Herald in the mid lane. Fnatic is gonna have to push a little more if they want to get the full tower. Teleport comes in now.
Oh, TP.
Yeah.
Okay, trying to force the play here. Tower taken down. That's going to be 2 towers now in favor of Fnatic to just the 1 of Misfits. And we need to recap on where the gold is at, right? We've not really talked about gold lead across the course of this game. It's been a little bit too hectic, a little bit too action-packed. Fnatic have the lead as we head towards this 20-minute mark. And if we go all the way back to the very start of the series, the thing that we talked about right at the beginning was that when Misfits are ahead at the 20-minute mark, that's when they're able to snowball like crazy, but Fnatic are more about the mid and late game. This time, they have the advantage.
Exactly. It's exactly as you say, Munchables. Misfits, they just don't look quite the same if they don't grab some massive lead at like the 20-minute mark. You said the 15. Sometimes it can be as late as 20, like we saw in Game 4. They just look a little off-kit on Fnatic Rising, whilst the performances in Game 3 and 4 weren't not quite there. We saw the kind of Fnatic Rising we've been seeing throughout the tournament in Game 1 and 2, where if they have an even game state, or if they are ahead at that 20-minute mark, they find great ways to be creative, to find picks on side lanes, to just maneuver the map in ways that maybe aren't, traditionally orthodox, let's just say. And they just pull out leads, kind of out of nowhere. And this is potentially a game where they could push further because they've still got so much agency on the map, and the scaling, I would honestly kind of put in their favor in quite a few regards and how these compositions are going to interact. Still, Misfits do have the tools to respond, crucially, right? Lamb's Respite, loads of disengage.
Come in from Rhuckz, and Jactroll is eradicated. Doesn't even get a chance to have any kind of counterplay. Didn't even manage to get his ult off because he just died too fast. And that's a Braum. The whole purpose is that you don't die. Yeah, so now in the mid lane, man advantage for Fnatic. They're looking for a tier 2. And the question is, can Woolite and Sertuss defend this tower? Beat sitting safely. Sertuss has to get onto him, but actually just taking a chunk of damage from Pride himself. They will be able to defend the tower, but great plays coming out from Fnatic, and they continue to keep the pace in their favor.
Exactly, and they need to keep that tempo up. They need to keep the pace high right now into Misfits if they want to keep a foothold on this game, to make sure that Misfits don't try and find an opportunity to break this sequence of play. Allow Fnatic Rising, or allow themselves rather, to, just keep Misfits close to their base. Make sure that you've always got this vision line, especially in the bottom side jungle, because if you can secure this dragon spawning in a minute's time, all of a sudden the weight of that early Ocean Soul just dissolves, and Misfits have to wait potentially 10+ minutes for that to even be a thing. And then the scaling of the Ryze can kick in, the scaling of the Gangplank can kick in. And even if, you go for these dive plays, Kindred ults, multiple targets, it doesn't matter because you're still going to be able to have this Ryze dishing out massive AoE. You're still going to have the Gangplank doing the thing too. I look towards Misfits and I say, how are you getting yourself out of this hole if Fnatic play a more tempered game? All right.
Bit of a whiff. MAXI not quite in the circle
these
there.
realm warps to the bottom side of the map have just not been Fnatic favored, have they? This is the second one where it's just not quite there for them.
Look, I'm a little bit nervous to talk about Fnatic realm warps because I'm afraid that the game will be paused, but we'll move on from the play in the jungle
really?
here.
You're gonna hit him with a pause reference in Game 5, the semifinals.
I do want to mention the fact that this is Game 5, right?
Yes.
And I want to mention the fact that we've got the mental fatigue coming on in, right? We've got the physical fatigue as well. They've been playing for a long time at this point in the game. With 8 seconds on this Ocean Drake, this is where the mechanical mistakes are likely to come through, right? These players are exhausted. It feels like it's a matter of who can stay strong the longest, but also the pressure on these players, right? As Fnatic will be able to get this Drake for themselves, especially on the side of Misfits, right? You're the favorite coming into this series. You're the LFL representative. If you can make it to the final today, you essentially begin the LFL era. LFL will finally win a back-to-back final for the first time in EU Masters history as a region. It would be so incredible for them to win. But it's a double-edged sword, right? Because the other side of that is you desperately need to win for the fans, and there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders.
Exactly. These kind of things, even with Vetracy on the side of they can start to win, especially like as the 5th game progresses. Like you spoke about, the fatigue, right? Mentally, physically, your barriers start to lower, and maybe these things start to play in your head. Yeah, you start to get emotional. Simple as that. I agree. So whilst they I'm serious. Whilst they sit in this
I'm not laughing at you. I was more like I just thought to myself, like, we're talking about these professional players in the semi-finals of a tournament that are, you know, in game number 5 they've been playing for hours. I get emotional after half an hour of solo. Like, I can't imagine the level of emotional maturity required. Arrow goes wide, hook goes wide, Fnatic look for a pick, but it's not going to happen, at least for now. But yeah, the mental fortitude required is insane. Let's kind of recap and get back into the game though here, Jamada, because right now Fnatic Rising, almost 4,000 gold up across the board, and it's not really been from kills, right? It's been from great, smart map.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they're only 3 kills up, so it has been from map play, it has been from denying waves, it has been, you know, from sort of these, how do I put it, these non-interactive with the enemy champions plays, I suppose, which has granted them this larger gold lead, and it has been very nice to see. But I think if you, this is going to sound very contradictory, but giving the opportunity for Woolite to scale in this game, whilst you've said, you know, Misfits look sloppier in the later stages of the game, giving him the opportunity to maybe hit 3 items, right? If he goes IE or Runan's, like, after this, after his PD, there's more room for error, right? So I kind of want to see Fnatic Rising push this advantage, not bite off more than they can chew, like we've seen them do a couple of times in this series and domestically, but just enough to keep their foot firmly in the lead as Jactroll almost oversteps again.
Close one. So my question to you, Jamada, is what is too far? What is acceptable for Fnatic? Because you're saying you want to see them push the game further. We don't want to see them overextend. Like, where's the line?
The line is like when being flashed to 1-for-1 for Woolite. That's the line. Like, stop right there, turn around, hit the tower.
He was already beyond the line at that point as he gets out on a lantern. There's going to be a stun onto Jactroll, followed by the box coming on through. MAXI in the backline. Agresivoo behind, but he's totally alone. Sertuss can't follow up, and it's going to be Fnatic with an advantage. 3-4. In favor of Fnatic here. Realm Warp onto Shlatan. Can they finish a kill? The Ashe slows are going to come on through, and he's eradicated. Jactroll flashes out safety. And Fnatic, that's the line. They stepped up to it and they stayed on the brink.
They did exactly as we said it. And now Fnatic Rising, they're eyeing up the Baron. There's no jungler on the map. I've seen LeBlanc still Baron Munchables. I've seen them do it for years upon years. Sertuss is here. He doesn't have any vision though. That's the crucial thing. But a double distortion could be all it takes. Unless the Death Sentence connects, it's dodged away from. This is risky.
This is really risky. Sertuss low HP. That one more auto would finish him off. A rocket comes in. It's going to be blocked. Oh my days, it's so tense. But Fnatic will secure the Baron. That wasn't even a smite, by the way. That was a barrel.
That was a barrel, and I mean, Fnatic Rising on the cusp of making history for themselves. They've only ever made it to semis. They have always dropped out at semis if they've made it this far. The Baron buff could be what it takes to break open this game even wider. And as highlighted in this replay, they found the line and they stopped. The re-engage kind of comes in here from Misfits, but look at Woolite and look at where Shlatan is. Because Shlatan dashes forward, puts the Lambda Spike down, but Woolite can't make it to the Lambda Spike because MAXI pulls the trigger quick enough and he just gets blown up. And Agresivoo, in the middle of all of these members, doesn't really find his mark, unfortunately, and the Realm Warp means everybody lands on top of Shlatan. He can't make it far away enough. The Flay almost secures Jactroll on the back end of it as well.
Yeah.
And Sertuss just doesn't have the damage or the, you know, he just doesn't have enough information to work with to get inside of the pit and maybe look for a smite in terms of his own damage.
Now, with with the Baron. Fnatic in prime position. They have a 6,000 gold lead, and we talked about the compositions, and it feels to me, Jamada, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the analyst.
Yeah,
I'm just
sure.
a monkey play-by-play, right? I say wrong things a lot.
Yeah.
But it feels to me like Misfits need to play with Agresivoo in the composition, right?
Yes.
Play for peel and keep Woolite alive, because the flank, I mean, there's no one really to follow up onto that flank, right? Agresivoo kind of got left alone.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to play the fights in one of two ways. Like, if you're being proactive, you either have to have Sertuss and Agresivoo sort of play, Rhuckz. This two-man party.
Okay.
He's going to play this sort of two-man party of finding these flank angles, finding the backline of Bean and Dajor sort of on their lonesome, whilst Shlatan, Woolite, and Jactroll all sit as a three-man unit so that the Slammer Spike can keep the carry alive. Or, you know, you can look to sort of just play outright deathball and match Fnatic to what they want to do, which is obviously try and catch as many people in these cataclysms as possible with the cannon barrage on top of it, and then you use the Lamb's Respite to your advantage. But I just think that right now Fnatic are so far ahead of the curve. If they try and play that game, it's not going to work. Pride could get caught out here on the side lane. Hit flash.
Playing with fire. Already has to use the flash on this one. He's surely going to go down. Now it's a game of buying time at the top side. Gets a bit of movement speed, gets a barrel off, but it's denied. The auto comes through. Pride will fall. Shlatan gets the kill. Look at the mid lane though. Fnatic racing on the other side of the map as they look towards an inhib. They had the Baron buff, they had the numbers advantage, and they find themselves an objective. The bottom side as well. It's an attempt from Sertuss, but MAXI gets away, and Fnatic find yet another advance.
All right, Fnatic Rising now have the opportunity to set up on either side of the map that they choose. Replay here, quite brief. I mean, Pride, a little bit too far up, nothing else to say about it. He buys a decent amount of time, and it does mean Fnatic Rising can pick up that inhibitor. Definitely does stop any potential sort of chain pressure that could have come through here. Fnatic Rising still sat quite comfortably in the game right now, and I mean, Munchables, I don't want to curse them, man, but Fnatic Rising, they could very easily close this game out. Misfits, I mean, we've said, right, if they don't have a lead at like 20-ish minutes, they just look a bit lost. And right now, the lead keeps on growing. They've got to deal with this mid lane inhibitor, and now they've got to deal with whichever siege Fnatic Rising set up with, and they just don't really have the proactivity tools per se, right? Any kind of fight you get started, it's going to have to be for an Agresivoo flank, but where is he going to find this flank? Because right now it feels like he's not really been able to have that level of impact in these team fights at all.
This is a rough one for Misfits right now. Fnatic have control of absolutely everything. The question is, can Fnatic play this smart, play this slow, and slowly but surely win the game for themselves? Because remember, they've been in the top 4. This is the 3rd time that they've made it to the top 4. They have never made finals before. Arrow somehow hit Woolite. I don't know how on earth that hit Woolite, but it's not going to be any follow-up onto that one. Yeah, Pride's down in the bottom side as well. And remember, Fnatic, they've never made it to the finals. Their rivals have. BTXL made it to the finals in the spring. Fnatic, they want to get back-to-back finals for the NLC right here. They want to outdo their rivals. So the pressure in the top side, 4 men strong, is answered by Misfits well, though. And it means that Pride will have to back away on the bottom side as well.
Yeah, but you can see even he's chunked out Agresivoo quite heavily just by being there. So Agresivoo can only really hold, you know, maybe 2 waves at a time before it looks like he has to reset if things go Pride's way. So much pressure being laid in. Looks like Fnatic Rising trying to opt into maybe a little more of a 1v1, spread the pressure around. Feel like the wave clear a little bit too much. They can keep Misfits in their base, means they can make those neutrals a little bit faster. But you have to say, you know, respite for Misfits, all of this CS being funneled into their base.
Yeah.
Even if they are grouped up, it's still a lot of XP and gold.
How often do you see the jungler going mid to deal with the supers, right? But this is a Kindred. This is a late game hyper carry in of itself, right? Shlatan will become a monster later on into the game. But when we look at items right now, Woolite has just finished his Infinity Edge. This Jinx is finally online. This could now be the window for Misfits to actually get themselves a fight, get themselves some kind of advantage, and maybe get back into this game.
Exactly. If they have a window, it's going to be relatively soon, but they can wait at the very least for the next dragon. They can let that one go past. I think if Fnatic starts to put pressure on the Baron, that's where things get a bit tricky, but also tricky for Fnatic Rising, because that is the most exposed and vulnerable position you can put yourselves in against the likes of a Kennen, against the likes of, you know, the Jinx rockets, LeBlanc poke. I think they're going to be very tentative around these Baron attempts. We might just see them actually keep pressure really high on the map, or just look for an engage and still fight again!
How does he find Woolite every time? That's actually insane. I don't even think he's aiming for Woolite. I think Woolite is just an arrow magnet.
Jactroll!
No, Hook goes in onto Jactroll. Realm going to come on through as well. Jactroll flashes away, jumps away, tries to keep himself safe, but he's blown up, and Dajor survives barely. But Woolite outside of the Level's respite. He's got him. He can't close the gap. Woolite Red finishes the kill. Is this it? Bean goes forward once again, as he always does. And Fnatic Rising have found their window.
Fnatic Rising find their window, and they are about to potentially make history for the NLC. Back-to-back finals, they match the feat of BTXL. Agresivoo, he's doing his best to clear out the wave. I just don't think it's enough.
He's trying to stop them.
He can't.
It's not gonna happen. Fnatic Rising have done it. The hook goes through. The Nexus will fall. And the NLC, Fnatic Rising, make it to the finals back-to-back and make regional history.
Fnatic Rising will make it to finals and face the same tough and tall task that their own rivals had to face in Carmine Corp. It's going to be a very intense finals, but commiserations to Misfits, I think, before we start to celebrate Fnatic Rising, because that was a very, very hard-fought series from them. You go 0-2 down in a best-of-5 in the nature that they wanted to, because Fnatic Rising just had their number. Game 1 and 2, It just looked like Misfits were out of it. And despite that, you start to see the veterancy come through. You start to see more adaptations in draft, removing the agency from giving it to Woolite. And that's when they started to find their click. But game 5, it just fell a little bit short. Fnatic Rising had the comfortable tools to play towards the bottom side and make sure Woolite didn't have that much breathability. And as soon as you shut down Woolite, it seemed like Misfits in this series today just weren't able to play around the rest of the map.
And it feels like such a monumental moment for not just the NLC in general, but for Fnatic Rising and these players especially. Can we just talk about Dajor for a second? Yeah. This guy's played half a split. He's in the EU Masters Finals. What a rookie split. We're going to jump to a break, and then the desk will break this one down. But a magnificent win for both the NLC and for Fnatic Rising.
Champions!
this side of the studio, we will have Fnatic rising in the
Ich kann auch nichts hören.
finals as they defeat Misfits Premier today.
Nein, ich höre nichts.
Bean, thank you so much for joining me. Can you hear me?
Hey, I can't hear anything yet, sorry.
Can't hear anything yet. Well, let's see
I don't have
if
sound.
production can triage this.
No. Got it.
You got it? You here?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Hey, nice to have you. Welcome. And congrats on
Thank you.
reaching finals. How do you feel right now?
I mean, to us, it feels like we just won Worlds, honestly. we're the underdog in the series. And yeah.
I can imagine. I
Maybe.
mean, tell me about, especially being the underdogs in this series. This is something we went over and over on the desk today. What was the mindset before the game, knowing that you would face the tournament favorites in one sense?
I mean, I think today we had literally no pressure. I think no one of us was nervous. We were chilling really hard. And actually, the entire year we had very good scrims against them. So in our heads, we were the favorites. So we got the best of both sides, I think, today. From the outside perspective, there was no pressure on us, but from the inside, we were really comfortable.
Ah, see, that's
And confidence.
that's the insider info I was missing here. But tell me about the development of the series, because you win the first two games, that Misfits come back, and we were like, can they pull the reverse sweep, or can Fnatic come back in the end? So tell me, how did you feel when Misfits came back, scored the two games, and you would have to play one last game?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got really good drafts in the first two games, and we got exactly what we wanted. In the third game, I think our draft was good as well, but they just played better. And in the fourth game, we had a lot of losing lanes, like playing Ezreal against Jinx Thresh. Stronger mid lane and stronger jungle is a bit hard. But yeah, in the last game, we just got our good draft again. I think they hinted a bit with the Lee Sin ban. Like, we were... Like, our first pick, they were not really getting any strong picks. They could have traded like the Thresh for Lee Sin, but in the end we just got the Thresh and they got like 0 power picks. Like picking Jinx, Braum 1-2 in this meta when there's so many OP champions. Doesn't sound so good.
The draft has been a really great discussion throughout the series, especially the fact that also you had to shut down Woolite to disable Misfits in one sense. Tell me how you worked around the team's weakness and how you struck there, especially with the Varus pick, because it feels like it was one of the key picks throughout the series.
Yeah, definitely. We had a lot of success with the Varus, and I feel like this series was a lot about who gets the bot prior.
Yeah.
Like, we had the bot prior in the first two games, so we won. They had in the 3 and 4, and so they won. And then in game 5 we had it again. So it just took us some time to realize that and draft. And I mean, yeah, I just think that was the key to the series, the bot lane prior. And from there on, the supports can just roam all over the map. It's so important to have our mid laner safe when he's playing against LeBlanc, and the heralds are so important as well. So we just needed the bot prior to unlock the support, and then our support can carry from there.
Yeah, it's super important in the game right now. But right now, moving forward, you will face off against K-Corp in the finals. They won in spring. What's your take on this team? You against them on Sunday, and how you think the NLC can bring the trophy home?
I think it's definitely winnable. Going to game 5 in the semifinal against Big shows they're definitely exploitable. And I mean, they lost to Misfits in the semifinal, right? So, like, on paper, we should not be big underdogs this time. We should. It's for sure winnable.
They shouldn't be a threat indeed, and you should keep this confidence, Bin, because you've been amazing today. Congratulations again on winning the series, as we see the teddies here with the Fnatic jerseys. Thank you so much, Bin, for joining me. We will see you on Sunday. Have a good day off, and yeah, come full rested for the finals. And we're going to take a quick break now, and we'll come back in a few minutes for the post-game breakdown and preview of the finals. See you then.
He's gonna flash in, and he steals the bomb! How did that connect by injury?
Fini! As EU Masters Champions!
Welcome back to the Berlin studio. We will have a back-to-back NLC versus LFL finals. And Trouble, congrats on having the right predictions today. How do you feel? Better relieved, I imagine.
Okay, I said it as a joke. I said that, you know, when it comes to predictions in my love life, usually my heart wins, my brain wins over my heart. But in predictions in League of Legends, apparently my heart wins over my brain. So I'm going to keep this rolling, I guess. And maybe finals too. I don't know.
Yeah, Bean was amazed by the results, but honestly, it didn't come so much as a shock. I mean, we've been talking about how Fnatic was the underdogs here, but he also told me that they've been beating up Misfits Premier the whole year through through Scrim, so they felt confident today. And it feels like we could see this confidence from the get-go from Fnatic.
Yeah, I think once they kind of figured it, as you know, Bean was saying in the comms, that look, once we got the control over the bot lane, we kind of knew how to play this out, right? We've got the winning jungle matchup. We can organize some plays towards the mid lane, and then start to move around towards the top side. And what I loved about the plan here from Fnatic Rising was always play with their bottom lane, right? We saw that skirmish up at about the 10-minute mark that was up on the top side, which they got rift hard off. They then transitioned that pressure into the bottom lane again, working around the strong Ashe in the bottom side of the map, and making sure that every single time they made this play, they were always using the fact that they had the winning 2v2 in that bottom lane and make it impossible for Misfits Premier to keep up.
And I think at some point we need to give a lot of props to MAXI as well, because I think we underestimated him a little bit coming into this matchup versus Shlatan, but that's because Shlatan has showed so much throughout the entire tournament. He's been playing so aggressive. This is his meta as well, playing a little bit more in your face, brawly, skirmish heavy. But I think MAXI showed up big time today. I think his Jarvan was absolutely stellar. He had, if not 100%, very close to 100% kill participation for the entire game. He was playing very careful. I think having a best of 5, going all the way to 5 games, both teams play extremely careful, but I feel like Max's plays were so calculated to the point where it was like that min-max we always talk about, always those at both sides of the map. And at some point I'm like, you're playing Ashe. How playmaking can you be on Ashe for Bean, of course, but apparently the ticket is through that bot lane. Even though you're playing like weak side ADCs, if you fall behind, you can't win.
I do want to highlight though again this like preparation from Fnatic, right? You highlighted before that, look, we didn't really expect MAXI to be able to kind of go over Shlatan so easily, and the reason was we saw so many of those bans go towards the jungle, right? Lee Sin consistently taken off the board, Xin Zhao consistently taken off the board, and then when you look at what MAXI was bringing out, like the Jarvan, it was like, okay, well, what's the early game champion? What sort of aggression can you bring out to match that early Jarvan? And the only real answer was the Olaf, but Olaf kind of sucks against the Jarvan. So you're caught between a rock and a hard place, and unfortunately the Kindred, it just wasn't it in this game.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about Misfits here, because it doesn't even feel that they underperform. It feels like Fnatic was just better today. There's nothing to shy away from this performance. They really look like a finals team.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think they should definitely not feel sad about their performance today. I saw a couple of tweets, and obviously when you lose, you feel a little bit sad. You feel like you underperformed, but I felt like there's nothing to be embarrassed about. I feel like they're showing, coming through, you know, getting knocked out in quarterfinals in spring, making it all the way to semis, being the absolute favorite to go all the way to the finals and take it, right? You beat the spring champions very convincingly in the LFL. Obviously, as the chain goes, everyone's going to think you're the favorite. But all in all, I felt like their play was stellar. The players have grown so freaking much through that. And I feel like a lot of people might think, you know, Jactroll, Woolite, their last chance. I don't think this is their last chance. I feel like this is where they show the caliber of players they are, and they've showed up big time.
Yeah, and I want to say as well, like on the growth of Fnatic Rising, this is one of the best cross-map usage that I've seen out of any of the teams in EU Masters. They were absolutely incredible today, and honestly, it's the best 1-3-1 in that game that I've seen all EU Masters long. They really understood how to play out through those side lanes, utilising the Ryze, utilising the Gangplank, looking for picks off the Ashe. It was impressive to see, and honestly, it's been one of the things that Misfits Premier have struggled with, so it really does feel like this was the game plan coming in from Fnatic Rising.
Yeah, really, Misfits had one way to play, and here Fnatic managed to shut them down. And history repeats itself. We will have another NLC versus LFL finals. Another time, Misfits gets knocked out by the NLC, and another time, Misfits gets knocked out by Fnatic, because that's also something we've seen in the LEC's playoff this summer. But taking a look at the finals here, K-Corp, once again, Fnatic Rising joining them. What's your take on these finals?
It's going to be insane.
Yeah.
I'm so hyped for
Another 5 games?
Oh,
I mean, I wouldn't be
please.
surprised after what we just saw, and I think Karmine Corp, I think honestly are kind of like another step above Misfits Premier when
Yeah.
it comes towards the jungle support synergy. I think Syncref and Targamas have had the best that we've seen in EU Masters, so I'm really looking forward now to seeing what Fnatic Rising can do when they're up one more level.
Yeah, Misfits was easier maybe to shut down. Do you think Fnatic can have as many answers against K-Corp on Sunday?
I feel like Rhuckz will be easier to match Targamas because by default, Rhuckz really likes to play for these roaming style skirmishes around the river. And I feel like now that they know they can play towards Dajor and play towards that pressure in the mid lane, and instead of like bleeding it out, they're bleeding it inwards with Rhuckz. Oh my God, I'm getting attacked. It feels like, yes, I feel like they will have the answers to Karmine Corp. Bean said something that I disagree with. He's like, I don't think we're the underdogs anymore. I'm like, no, keep it because it's been working for you so far.
I was about to say it's a good fire for them, and I just want to have 5 games on Sunday, regardless of the outcome. It's going to be a banger finals and another fight on the desk. We're going to have the rematch. We want it also. I hope you'll be ready. Trouble, yeah,
I'm ready. I was ready today.
We'll plan some segments.
I might need some backup.
It backfired, it backfired a bit.
Bring some
for
more
me.
people in.
We'll see about this on Sunday. Guys, it was a pleasure sharing the desk with you today. I wish you a good rest, a good 2 days off. And as of you guys on the stream, it was amazing having you. I hope you enjoyed the show. We will see you on Sunday for finals. 6 p.m. if I'm not mistaken, 5:30 for the pre-show. Before that, have fun, have a good evening, and see you then.
Et c'est fini.